Welcome back. In this video, we're going to talk about the else statement and how the else statement will execute code when the if statement fails. Let's dive right in. Here is what we call an if-else statement. Notice we have an ordinary if statement followed by the else keyword with another body. The else is always used with an if. You'll never see else by itself. The else body executes when the condition for the if statement is false. This means that exactly one of these bodies will execute and not both. Let's say we have some sort of monster in our game and it eats grass when the player is not near. Well, here we have an if statement checking to see if player is near, and if player is near, we call the function attack player. But if player is near evaluates to false, then the if statement of course never runs, but the else statement is triggered instead. So if our monster is out in the field somewhere and player is near returns false, then the monster will just keep calling the eat grass function and nobody gets hurt. Now let's say we have a boolean called collision with axe, and we update that boolean every frame. This boolean can be used in our game, and if our circle collides with the axe, then suddenly collision with axe will become true. In that case, we can draw text to the screen that says game over. And all of our game code that involves drawing the circle and the rectangle to the screen can go in the else statement. In other words, if there's a collision, we don't even need to draw the circle or the rectangle. Well, it just so happens that this drawText function actually exists. It's a raylib function, and it takes a few parameters. The first is text in double quotes. This text will be drawn to the canvas in our window. Next, we have pos x and pos y, and those are the x and y coordinates of the text. The font size is, well, the font size, and the color, well, you're already getting the hang of this. So your challenge is to create an if-else statement. First, create a bool called collision with axe. Initialize this to true for now. We're not going to be doing collision detection in this video. Now add an if-else statement inside the while loop. Do this just under our call to clear background. Now if collision with axe is true, draw text to the screen using our drawText function. For the text, use game over. For pos x, we'll place it at the x coordinate of 400. For pos y, we'll use 200. For the font size, use 20, and for the color, use red. Now for the else statement. Place all game logic in the else. Everything from our comment game logic begins all the way up to our comment game logic ends. Place all of that in the else. Go ahead and pause the video and try this now. So here we are in our program. I'm going to scroll down to the while loop, and just before our call to set target FPS, I'm going to add a new boolean, and I'm going to call this collision with axe. And I'll initialize it to true. Now inside the while loop, just under clear background, I'm going to add an if-else statement. It's going to say if collision with axe. And in the if case, we're going to call draw text. Now for the text, it's going to say game over. For pos x, we're going to use 400. For pos y, we'll use 200. For the font size, we'll use 20. And for the color, we'll use red. Now for the else case. Just after the if body, we'll place else and a body. Now I'm going to scroll down and take everything from game logic begins all the way up to game logic ends, but not in drawing. Leave that there. Now I'm going to cut all this code by right-clicking and selecting cut. Now just inside the else statement, I'm going to right-click and paste. Now all of that text is inside the else statement. Now you might notice that most of the code we pasted is not indented. So if we highlight the text that is not indented, just up to the ending curly brace for the else body and hit the tab key, then all of the selected text will indent. So we can test this out. Now we initialized collision with axe to true, so all we should see is our text drawn to the screen. Let's go to Run and start debugging. And there's our text printing game over to the screen. Now what happens if we initialize collision with axe to false? Well, let's find out. Run and start debugging. And we have our circle and our axe. So in summary, we learned about the else statement and how it always goes with an if statement. We learned about the draw text function, which draws text to the screen. Pretty self-explanatory. And we created a bool called collision with axe. When this boolean is true, in the if body, we print game over using draw text. When this boolean is false, in the else body, we draw the circle in the axe and do all of our game logic. Well done! We're now ready to implement collision detection in the next video and finish our game. See you then.